Hi, how are you guys? Hope you're doing well. So, I thought I was going to pick a topic which kind of spawned from a comment I got from another video I did a while back where I was trying my best to reason about what I would likely deem the functional poster child of programming languages of our time. Now, the comment was made by someone who was pointing out that, why couldn't, like, I was basically comparing Scala and Elixir as the two main candidates for being the functional programming poster child. And I was also touching a little bit about why I don't think Haskell would win in any case, even though it is the functional language of if you want to be pure functional, really purist, this is the only functional language in my opinion that is worth mentioning. But there might be a few others. Like, I don't know every single programming language out there, but Haskell is definitely the biggest contender. Now, you can also start I tried to respond by saying that ClojureScript, for example, which is a functional taste language, and F# is also a functional language. The reason why I didn't compare these two is virtually because of I was responding by saying that the ClojureScript doesn't have types, for example, which doesn't and it does run on the JVM as well. And there are a lot of similarities between ClojureScript and Scala, and there were a few, like the comment mentioned things like transpiling down to JavaScript, and that's an entire different topic I would gladly touch on in another video. But Scala does that too. So, and the in essence what I ended by saying is that if you can, like, my entire basis for saying that Scala could probably be one of the contenders is because it's the only part, like F# it's unfortunately not running on all environments. It's basically C#, which has its own limitations, and that's why I don't think it's going to be that main thing, because honestly the Microsoft community they are not sold on they are not contributing to the functional, like they don't have, in my opinion, they don't have much of a presence in the functional discussion. So that leaves, if you don't want types, then or rather you don't think that that's critical for your ability to use a functional programming language, then I would ask you, why would you choose anything apart from Elixir? Elixir is probably, it is, I'm going to be completely honest and say that I'm opinionated. Elixir is the best choice, hands down, for a for almost all use cases I've seen it being used for. It is it's genius. It is as simple as that. If you don't know anything about Elixir, I highly recommend you have a look at it. And it breaks my heart to think that it's not going to be the main programming language, because I would love it to be. But the point I'm trying to make here is that in my comment, and that's the basis of this little video of mine, I want to touch on something, and that is that the assumption I made when I was comparing functional programming language and who's going to be the poster child is that I be very careful. We need to make a distinction here. Am I saying that these languages will be the most popular languages? Absolutely not. Not even by a long shot. Am I saying that if a discussion ever came to a situation where the value of functional programming was so highly regarded that it actually affected a company or a team's decision in terms of what tech stack to use, then I would argue that it's going to be between Elixir and Scala for the most part. That's what I'm saying. And that assumption, if you're paying attention, is that there's ever going to be a situation, and trust me, I honestly don't think that it will ever come to that on a large, like, broad scale, where people will actually sit down and say, hey, we're going to build this system, and the main reason for us to to use this technology is because it has functional patterns. I don't think we'll ever get to a point where functional programming is so highly regarded in terms of code quality and like all things, all other things set aside, the that functional will be so highly regarded that it's going to be the main thing that makes you decide that, because when you pick a tech stack, it's about more than just functional. It's about more, a lot more. And if it's not about more than functional, then I seriously think that you should consider more, other things than, it's functional. So what I'm trying to say here is virtually that you will find, in my opinion, that the most likely scenario going forward is that the more popular programming languages that are on the market today are simply going to adopt a lot of the functional principles. And in doing so, even though they're not inherently super functional, they're going to remain in position. Because let's be honest here, if functional programming and being purist about it was such an important part of of the developers' everyday workflow, and the perceived value was that high, then we would all be using Haskell. It's the same argument I make for performance. If performance was the only thing you cared about, then we would all be writing in C and C++, but we don't. So what I'm saying here is that I don't ever think that functional programming, that Scala or Elixir, are going to be the main languages. I do think that they're going to, for the communities who really, really are sold on functional, they're going to be the first choices. So my guess is that if we're gonna predict what's going to most likely be the case, I think that Kotlin, for example, for us, for the ClojureScript lovers and the Scala lovers, I love these languages, and I even love Java. I think Kotlin is probably going to steal away the JVM-based language throne. It has all the things you need for functional programming, and it's supported by, it's a first-class citizen and so forth, and it does a lot of cool stuff. So I honestly think that's going to be the way. And I still think that, Elixir, these, I'm not saying that Clojure and Scala and Elixir, that they're not going to be around. I'm simply saying that I don't think that they will ever be the main programming languages. In the functional paradigm, absolutely. But as I said, do you really think, if you're really honest with yourself, how often is that you choose a language just based on one single factor, which in this case is functional? Because, once again, if you're a purist functional programmer, you would be working in Haskell, not in Clojure, not in Scala. There are more things that, play a part. So what I would kind of want to take away from this little rant of mine, or just kind of summarize my thoughts about all of these things, I don't think that functional programming has a few really, really good ideas. And these are not the monads. It's not like, there are a few monads that are, especially in synchronous programming, using promises, or the continuation monad, if you will. These are good ideas, but I don't think that everything functional, every idea that's coming from the functional paradigm is pure genius. Or maybe it is pure genius, and we are simply, the programmers of today are simply too stupid. Well, not stupid, that's a strong word, but we're simply not used to working in that way. Which brings the discussion to, if you wanted to, if functional ever were to was to have that type of leverage that I'm talking about, for it to actually affect the decision of a tech stack, we need to, you need to basically re-educate an entire industry of people who are used to working in an object-oriented fashion or a procedural fashion. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of prep work to be done before that actually happens. But what is it that functional? What is the most important part about functional? Well, the most important part about functional is the idea of purity, functional purity, and pushing state, or like all impurities, to the edges of your application, to try to isolate everything that has to do with integrations, or anything that can, in theory, create an X factor in your code. In order to write, in my opinion, these principles are the very basic principles, in essence, of functional programming. I honestly think that these are the concepts that are the most important to take away from functional. And if you think about it, you don't really, it's not much that is required for a language to support these features. I mean, Java does it now. You need lambda functions maybe, and then that's and then everything else is really possible to achieve. Like, you can talk to me about immutable state, and some people will make the argument, oh well, with closure and so forth, they have it by default. And I kind of go, well, does it really matter if it's there by default? If you can do it and you see a value in it, you're gonna do it. If you don't, you don't. So honestly, I think that any language that has support for lambda functions are going to, for the 99% of the time, it's going to cover your needs for functional paradigms, and the rest is really up to other things. And yeah, those are really my thoughts on like the value that of functional programming. Yeah, that's pretty much it.